Good evening. I will call the meeting to order at this time. If you will, please rise for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. This time I'll call on Dr. David Barber to lead us in the invocation, please.
Let's pray. Lord, I thank you so much for the opportunity that we have that we can come and we can do business of the town of Smithfield. I pray, Lord, right now that you'd help us do things in a way that would be respectful for everybody. I pray, Lord, that we would show no impartiality for anybody and that everything we do would be up and up. Lord, I pray that you would help us, even when we disagree, to disagree in an agreeable way. We thank you for all you do. In the mighty name of Jesus, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, gentlemen. You've seen the agenda. We do have a couple of known requested changes to the agenda. Those known changes should be at your place, but the first one is to add presentation number 4, consideration and request for approval to adopt resolution number 712, supporting Operation Green Light for veterans. The next item is add to presentations 5, Landis Bullock, to speak to the council concerning the school bond referendum. I will ask, we have a pretty full agenda, and since this is being added today, I will ask Mr. Bullock if you hold your comments to 15 minutes maximum, please. And then add to the business item consideration and request for approval to allow the fire department to hire an additional firefighter position due to a pending retirement. Those are the only known changes that I have. Any additional changes at this time? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I move we approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, our first presentation is administering the oath of office to a new police officer, Joshua Lynch. Joshua, if you will, please come forward. If there's anyone else you would like to come to the front as well, please do so at this time. Testing. Just making sure you guys were awake. How you doing, sir?
Good, how are you?
All right, who do you have here with you this evening?
I have my grandfather.
Papa. All right, welcome, Papa. Captain, you ready, sir?
Yes, sir.
And you ready?
Yes, sir.
All right, if you will, raise your hand and repeat after me, please. I, Joshua Beckton Lynch,
I, Joshua Beckton Lynch,
the undersigned, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States, that I will faithfully and bear true allegiance to the state of North Carolina and to the constitutional powers and authorities which are or may be established for the government thereof, that I will endeavor to support, maintain, and defend the Constitution of said state, not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States, that I will bear that I will be alert and vigilant to enforce the criminal laws of this state, that I will not be influenced in any manner on account of personal bias or prejudice, and that I will faithfully and impartially execute the duties of my office as a law enforcement officer according to the best of my skill, abilities, and judgment. So help me God. Congratulations, sir. Good luck with everything. Be safe out there. Thank you very much. You need a picture? You got it? Yeah. Okay, our next presentation this evening is a proclamation recognizing October the 2nd through the 8th as Public Power Week in the town of Smithfield. Ted, if you want to come forward, and whomever else. All right. Well, thank you, sir. Timing is everything, right? So we had a little bit of scare this week with Ian. But just want to say thank you to you and your team, and quite frankly to all of the town staff, right, for being prepared. Mike, we discussed, and we were in communication beginning Wednesday with our partners with the county and so forth, and it seemed like everybody was prepped in case. We had a situation that we needed to handle. We did have some power outages due to a tree that fell, but it's my understanding that the tree was removed fairly quickly and the power was restored in a relatively short amount of time. So again, sir, thank you to your staff, the ones that are not really out there on the front lines and being thanked and commended for the job they do, because it's usually the wee hours of the morning when those blinking yellow lights are flashing and we're trying to get the power back on. So it is my honor to recognize October the 2nd through the 8th in the town of Smithfield as Public Power Week. So if you will, please bear with me, and I'll just read this proclamation. Whereas public power is a crucial component in cities and towns across North Carolina, contributing to the overall health of communities by providing unmatched electric reliability, affordable and sustainable power, excellent local service, and essential jobs in communities. And whereas North Carolina's more than 70 public power cities and towns are among more than 2,000 across the country, providing electricity and a reliability rating of 99.98% to nearly 1.3 million North Carolinians. And whereas many of North Carolina's public power cities and towns have been electric providers for more than 100 years, assisting their communities through boom times as well as pandemics and economic downturns, maintaining life-saving electricity to homes and businesses. And whereas North Carolina public power communities are part of a mutual aid network that spans the state and country, providing invaluable support during times of hurricanes and other natural disasters while maintaining a superior safety record. And whereas North Carolina's public power utilities are dependable institutions that provide excellent service, valuable energy solutions, and a commitment to community. And whereas North Carolina's public power utilities are dependable institutions that provide excellent service and a commitment to community. And whereas the town of Smithfield recognizes Public Power Week and commends the public power cities and towns across our state for their outstanding contributions to our communities. Now, therefore, I, Andy Moore, Mayor of the town of Smithfield, along with the town council, do hereby proclaim October the 2nd through the 8th as Public Power Week in the town of Smithfield and commends its observation to all citizens. Again, thank you very much, sir, for all you do and everything that staff does on behalf of keeping our lights on, sir. Our next proclamation this evening is recognizing October the 9th through the 15th as Fire Prevention Week in the town of Smithfield. Chief, if you'll come forward, please. Again, it's my honor to present this proclamation to you, sir. Everything that you do, thank you, sir, and everything that our fine men and women at the fire department do on behalf of our citizens, not only the citizens of the town of Smithfield, but to our surrounding areas. The mutual aid that we provide for the communities around is invaluable, as well as the mutual aid that we receive from those agencies as well. So it's my honor to recognize October the 9th through the 15th as Fire Prevention Week in the town of Smithfield. Whereas the town of Smithfield is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living and visiting the town. And whereas fire is a serious public safety concern both locally and nationally, and homes are the locations where people are at greatest risk from fire. And whereas home fires killed more than 2,580 people in the United States in 2020, according to the National Fire Protection Association, and fire departments in the United States responded to 356,500 home fires. And whereas smoke alarms sense smoke well before you can, alerting you to danger in the event of fire in which you may have as little as 2 minutes to escape safely. And whereas working smoke alarms can cut the risk of dying in reported home fires in half. And whereas residents should be sure everyone in the home understands the sounds of the alarms and knows how to respond. And whereas residents who have planned and practiced a home fire escape plan are more prepared and will therefore be more likely to survive a fire. Whereas first responders are dedicated to reducing the occurrence of home fires and injuries through the prevention and protection education. And whereas the 2022 Fire Prevention Week theme, Fire Won't Wait, Plan Your Escape, effectively serves to remind us it is important to have a home fire escape plan. Now, therefore, I, Andy Moore, Mayor of the town of Smithfield, do hereby proclaim October the 9th through the 15th as Fire Prevention Week in Smithfield, North Carolina, and I urge all citizens to take time to have a fire escape plan and to support the many public safety activities and efforts of fire and emergency services. Chief, I know I can speak on your behalf by saying that how crucial that you check your smoke detectors, make sure there are batteries changed every year, and that you do have an escape plan and you practice that escape plan with all of your family members. I'm sure you've seen it in action, and you can speak to how valuable those two components are in being able to escape a fire should one occur. So, Chief, to you and the men and women of your departments, we thank you and we appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Yes, sir. Thank you. Okay, gentlemen, this was the resolution that was added to the agenda for consideration and request for approval to adopt resolution number 712, supporting Operation Green Light for Veterans. I'll read the resolution and then I'll ask for a motion in support and approval of the resolution if you so desire. Whereas the residents of the town of Smithfield have great respect, admiration, and the utmost gratitude for all the men and women who have selflessly served our country and this community in the armed forces. And whereas the contribution and sacrifices of the men and women who served in the armed forces have been vital in maintaining the freedoms and way of life enjoyed by our citizens. And whereas the town of Smithfield seeks to honor these individuals who have paid the high price for freedom by placing themselves in harm's way for the good of all. And whereas veterans continue to serve our community in the various veteran services organizations, religious groups, civil service, and by functioning as veteran service officers in 29 states to help fellow former service members access more than $52 billion in federal health, disability, and compensation benefits each year. And whereas approximately 200,000 service members transition to civilian communities annually, and whereas an estimated 20% increase of service members will transition to civilian life in the near future, and whereas studies indicate that 44 to 72% of service members experience high levels of stress during transition from military to civilian life, and whereas active military service members transitioning from military service are at a high risk for suicide during their first year after military service, and whereas the National Association of Counties encourages all municipalities to recognize Operation Greenlight for veterans, and whereas the town of Smithfield appreciates the sacrifices of our United States military personnel and believes specific recognition should be granted. Now therefore, be it resolved with designation as a green light for veterans, the town of Smithfield Town Council hereby declares from October through Veterans Day, November the 11th, 2022, a time to salute and honor the service and sacrifice of our men and women in uniform transitioning from active service. And be it further resolved that in observance of Operation Greenlight, the town of Smithfield encourages its citizens to, in patriotic tradition, to recognize the importance of honoring all those who made immeasurable sacrifices to preserve freedom by displaying a green light in a window of their place of business or residence. And if you will see at the back of the room, we do have a green light that is owned tonight in honor and in support of our veterans. And I encourage all of our citizens and all of our businesses to do so as well. At this time, the council, I'll ask that I have a motion to adopt this resolution, if so desired.
I make a motion we adopt the resolution.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. And again, to the citizens that are listening to us and to the citizens in the audience, I encourage you all to support this effort on the behalf of the town of Smithfield. Thank you very much. All right. I think, let's see, that leads us to our next presentation. Mr. Bullock, you would like to come forward and come forward here to the front podium, please. And if you don't mind, if you will introduce yourself and whoever else you may have with you that may be presenting this evening, and I'll turn it over to you, sir. If you will, please try to keep it to 15 minutes. I would appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We'll certainly do our best. Tonight, I'd like to introduce to the Town Council Dr. Jonna Faulkner. She serves with myself on the Friends of Johnson County Public School Committee. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. She serves with us on the Friends of Johnson County Public Schools Committee, better known as the Bond Referendum Committee. As we hope everyone on the council and all the members in the audience tonight who are from the Smithfield-Johnson County area are very much aware, we have on the November the 8th ballot a $177 million bond to improve and update the schools of Johnson County. As you can see on the overheads, Johnson County is the fastest growing county in the state of North Carolina in between 150 and 250,000 population group. That is from the last U.S. Census. If you will look a little further on the presentation, you'll see that we are the 9th fastest growing county in the United States. We have unprecedented growth going on in Johnson County and have had for a number of years. We are growing at the rate of 714 students per year, and as you know from your responsibilities in the county, We already have 224 approved developments with approximately 20,000 building lots that can be built on in the next few years. We anticipate they will not all be built on, but they could be built on. Even though we have been successful in the county with charter schools and some private schools moving into the county, they are not really relieving the population problems that we have at our public schools. Currently, we have 186 mobile classrooms. What the average person does not realize, each time we move and set up one of those mobile classrooms, it costs the Johnson County Board of Education $30,000. We're taking $1 million a year out of the Board of Education's funds just to maintain mobile units. If the bond for $177 million is approved, we're expecting to move and not use at least 82 of those modular units. We have currently $253 million worth of needs that need to be addressed immediately. We have a $177 million bond that we hope is approved by the voters of Johnson County, and the Johnson County Board of Education is going to use $26.95 million that they have from government funds, the CARES Act, and the ESS, economic stimulus money that the federal government passed out, along with they've taken $8 million out of their own reserves to make the $26.95 million. So that will help add to the $177 million, but it still doesn't bring us up to the $253 million that we need to do at the current time. Out of this bond, we will be building classroom additions. We will be building an additional elementary school. Every school in the county's security will be increased. It is extremely difficult to secure mobile units, so that's the reason we're trying to move more students back into traditional brick and mortar buildings. ADA improvements will be going on at the same time. In the 2018 bond referendum, we did the first round of security improvements. We did some building expansions. We updated our HVAC programs, which is still many of them are still outdated. As all of you know who live in this area, Smithfield-Selma Senior High School received a new roof, which it certainly needed. South Smithfield Elementary has also received a new roof out of the 2018 bond money. South Smithfield Elementary also had a new front to come about. And Dr. Faulkner here is moving fast on me, I see.
Back to the roof.
Okay, there is the roof for Smithfield-Selma High School. And you will also see from the next slide that she's going to bring up on the gymnasium. This is our new multipurpose gym that we're going to build at Smithfield-Selma High School. What many of you do not realize, the bond funding is borrowed over 4 years. So Smithfield-Selma High School is going to receive a new gymnasium out of year 4 bond funding, which from the 2018 bond to now, this is year 4. So Smithfield-Selma's new gym is in the design phase at this time, but it will look very similar to that. And if I am talking too fast or boring anyone, please stop me, and if you have any questions, I'll be more than glad to answer them. But if you go to your 21-22 membership forecast for elementary schools, if you slide down to the schools that are in the Smithfield area, which is South Smithfield and West Smithfield, we are very fortunate. Our schools are not overcrowded at the current time. We are very fortunate. We have 22 schools in the county that are way over capacity at the current time. If you look on the next page of your information there, We, at Smithfield Selma High School, were projecting to be out of capacity in the school year 22-23. Unfortunately, I checked with David Allen over the weekend. The capacity at Triple S is 1,448. As of last Friday, we were 1,515 students. So we are now out of capacity at Smithfield Selma High School. Now, fortunately, that number is not so high that we cannot manage it, but it's only a matter of time before it's going to be much higher and difficult to manage. And if the bond's not approved, we will have to bring additional mobile units at a very expensive cost to Smithfield Selma High School. If the bond's not approved, which we have never had an educational bond that was not approved by the voters of the county to the best of my knowledge, Smithfield Selma will have to have 6 additional mobile units put there very quickly. Dr. Faulkner, would you bring the information up on the complications that come with overcrowded schools?
They'd like me to talk about the effects of overcrowded schools because I was a teacher who taught in a mobile unit, and we have 186 of these on the Johnston County Public School System campuses. When you have a mobile unit, imagine taking little people from a mobile unit with no bathroom and trekking back to a school building. No matter how much you want to, even if they're high schoolers, you lose instructional time. There are just so many things that you lose. And for anyone who's ever had, I will say, your children come back home to live with you for a while, or you've moved in with someone for a while, imagine the effects of overcrowding your home. So take that on a larger scale. If you have more students in a school, there's more wear and tear. Everyone's fighting for the restrooms. You know, you're waiting. You have all of that going on. Your cafeterias are full. Some of our students eat lunch at 10 o'clock in the mornings so that they can move everyone in and out because of the school systems. Grade levels are split between field trips. You know, half 5th grade goes on Monday, the other half may go on Wednesday. So you don't build that camaraderie with your classmates that we all had back in the days before we were 9th fastest in the nation. And as our teachers, you know, they need places to work. They need a so-called office or at least a desk, but many teachers have to give up their classrooms and move away. There's no place for them to, you know, to plan. So again, that impacts our academics. Enough?
Dr. Faulkner works at the School of Education at East Carolina University, and she works with postgraduate students, and she is a real plus to our committee, and she's a plus to our community because she has served on many educational committees here in Johnston County, and particularly in the Smithfield-Selma area. Okay. On the next one, the county commissioners and the Board of Education hope this is a 3-step proposal. A bond this year they'll pass, bond in 24, and a bond in 26. Now, the bond in 24 and 26 has not been adopted by the county commissioners, but it has been discussed, and that's kind of the plan that everyone's working for. This is a building block program. If bond 1 doesn't pass, the bond 2 is already behind. If bond 2 doesn't pass, you can't add on to bond 1. Bond 3 is the exact same situation. We're hoping to be able to bring all 3 bonds to the county over the next 4 years, and we're hoping they're all passed. The situation is we got to build schools whether the bond is approved or not. The bond is the least expensive way for us to finance schools for our county. But the county commissioners will be forced to make some hard decisions on how to finance new schools if the bond's not passed. We currently have plans, and the Board of Education is already in negotiations on property in the Wilson Mills area for a new high school. That new high school will leave some of the pressure on Smithfield-Selma, South Johnston, Clayton, West Johnson, Clayton High School, Cleveland, and Corinth Holder. It's not projected to improve the situation at West. What will happen is some boundaries will have to be changed across the county to make it a successful situation. But the next high school will be built in the Wilson Mills area. There will be an elementary school built in the Swift Creek area, which will also help alleviate some of our future problems. The Board of Education has taken a very proactive stance on this. Instead of reactive, we're trying to plan ahead and finally get ahead of the curve. The new roof that went on Smithfield-Selma High School, very few of you probably think of it this way, but Smithfield-Selma was 53 years old. Even though the asphalt roof had been repaired, it needed a new roof. It's far more efficient. We're using outdated HVAC systems. The computer system that we're using is completely outdated. Sometimes this heat and air conditioning people from the facility services actually have to go to the schools to adjust air conditioning and heat systems to work properly. All of these upgrades are in the new bond referendum, if it's approved by the citizens. Mr. Mayor, I am doing everything I can to stay on your 15-minute timeline.
Thank you, sir.
And as you know me, that's not good for me to have to talk that fast. Okay. Once again, Smithfield Middle will receive HVAC equipment. Smithfield-Selma Senior High School will receive new tennis courts. South Smithfield Elementary will receive new updates on its HVAC. West Smithfield is receiving playground equipment in our own town. Could I answer any questions for anyone?
Any questions? Or Mr. Bullock or Dr. Faulkner?
This is a
Landis, I do have, I have one. So, you know, obviously, the bond referendum, I think, is good for the county and building schools in the county, but obviously my concern is Smithfield schools.
We respect that.
Can one of you maybe give us a little bit more information on how building a school in the Wilsons Mills area will relieve the capacity needs at all the schools that were listed? Clayton, Cleveland, Corinth, North Johnston, Smithfield-Selma, and South Johnston. How does the board anticipate that occurring? And how building this school in Wilson's Mills will alleviate overcrowding at all of those schools?
Would you like to answer that, or would you prefer I handle it?
You want to start now? I'll chime in.
Okay. Because you're going to the Wilson Mills area, it's very easy to pull students back from Clayton High School back towards Wilson Mills. You can cut off the eastern boundaries of Clayton High School and move them towards west, the Wilson Mills new school. Same situation in Corinth Holders, same situation in the Cleveland area. You're going to be cutting off, you're going to be shaving off the outside boundaries of their current school zones. We're even going to pull some from North Johnston. So that means Smithfield-Selma is going to have to accept some of those, but some of the Smithfield-Selma students are going to be moved over to the Wilson Mills program. Likewise, Smithfield-Selma's boundaries will go further south, picking up some of the South Johnston students, which will be moved into Smithfield-Selma High School. And yes, I admit that sounds like a real jigsaw puzzle, but that is the game plan, how it's going to work.
So when you redistrict, are you going to keep the students in the district that go to the high schools that they're supposed to go to? Or are you going to continue to let students transfer based on athletics or academics or whatever? I mean, that's the problem. I mean, I hear you got to get a plan to redistrict, but if we have a kid in Smithfield says, well, I don't really like Smithfield-Selma, I don't want to go to Wilson Mills, I want to go to Clayton, how you going to stop that?
I respect your question 100%, and that is not the first time we've heard that while we've been on this bond referendum speaking tour. That is really a Board of Education question that you're going to have to ask the members of Board of Education. I have heard board members say over and over again that they prefer that students stay in their given district. We have schools that are out of capacity, and somehow or another, students manage to get moved into it. They find a loophole to get them into it.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
But there are many people voicing the exact same comment that you're saying, and
All this is null and void unless you stop that. You can do what you want to in a bond referendum, you can vote for it, but until you stop the transfer of students out of their district, eventually it's gonna catch up again, and you're gonna have the same problem, in my opinion.
I respect your opinion. Ms. Faulkner?
And if I'm wrong, let me know.
The only thing I would say right now, Councilman Wood, is it's really working in Triple S's favor that students are allowed to move. We have a lot of students choosing Smithfield-Selma High School right now, which has not always been the case. So
No, it has not always been the
I am
case.
really pleased with that.
Okay.
The International Baccalaureate Program has helped Smithfield-Selma High School significantly. Now the IB program is also at the middle school, and it eventually will be in the elementary schools if the Board of Education follows its plan. Along with, we have the AVID program that's in place at Smithfield-Selma High School.
And so many of our career and technical programs, our food services there at Triple S, our Fireman's Academy, there's so many really awesome things, and I think our high schoolers are choosing to go where their interests are, at least those, a lot of them that are moving. I'm really pleased.
I will say
Fair
this, for the Board of Education, the years that I served on the advisory committee at Smithfield-Selma High School, they turned down very few requests that we brought to them. Now, we might have to wait a little bit, but we normally got our requests honored at Smithfield-Selma.
Any other questions?
Now, I was going to comment, there's one of the issues I know that the school has to put up with is because we do have so many charter schools and private schools that are moving into the area where people can select to go. That's one of the pressures that is put on the Board of Education, because if you don't allow the student to do something that you can do, if you have an opening at the school and they can provide transportation, then they're going to transfer to a charter school or a private school. Because we're still adding more and more private schools and charter schools. Because I noticed that I was going to ask the question, because I thought when they announced the number of students enrollment for Johnson County, it was actually below the number from last year. At the beginning of the year, I don't know what it is today, because the numbers obviously went way up in Smithfield since that time period. But so do you know if the numbers, how they compare to last year's numbers for total student enrollment for Johnson County? I know we got a lot of students coming into the county, but a lot of them are going to new charter schools and private schools because a lot of them are springing up everywhere. So
The number you saw, I think it was 274, and I can't remember exactly. I don't want to speak numbers.
37,000
Just a little
something,
bit
yeah.
lower than it was. And imagine it wouldn't be that low if we didn't have that private school
Oh, I
and the
understand.
charters. So I'm really glad that people have those choices in a way, because it really is helping our enrollment in our Johnson County public schools. But you are on target with what you.
But my concern is, though, we're asking for money to build more schools, not necessarily just repair the existing ones, but our number of students are not going up at this point because they're going up. There are other people providing the capacity for them. So that's why I'm saying, what are we going to do, as far as, you say, I mean, if we're saying the number of students are increasing, but statistically the numbers are not increasing because they're going other places,
But we're already overcrowded now. So
I understand that.
We need to move those students out. And yes, if we have more choices, they may choose to go there. They may choose someplace else. So if we can help with the bond, and then we have how many subdivisions on the?
200 and
well,
something.
we've got a bunch in Johnson County that's going to be Smithfield that's coming.
So it's going to grow and grow.
And as we said earlier, what Dr. Faulkner was saying, we have 224 approved at the time that the ORDED did their study. But we do have 22 schools right now that are completely capped out. They're way over capacity. Commissioner Lee can certainly speak about what is going on at Clayton High School. I think you're still on staff there?
Yes, sir.
So you know the overcrowding problem they have there. Yes, we've got a slight hiccup right now, but our population numbers are still going up. North Carolina State University Ord Ed Department projects Johnson County's growth is going to way exceed what we currently have.
Yeah. So, any other questions at this time? I will ask, and I certainly understand, and that's a concern, right? I also heard that, some of the schools that some of the Smithfield students are transferring to are capped, whatever that means. And my biggest fear as mayor, since I've been mayor, my quote in my office was, think to the staff and to this man right here, until recently, was think residential with everything that you do. We put a lot of effort in recruiting residential subdivision to the town of Smithfield in hopes to help our school system. And my biggest fear is that the Board of, I know you guys can't do anything about it, but the Board of Education is going to allow students that are in the town of Smithfield in these subdivisions that we have worked so hard to bring to go to school somewhere else. So you talk about the redistricting here for these schools. Is that known? Do we know what it is right now that someone could let this council know what that plan is before this bond is approved?
I doubt if we could provide that information.
I think it's great information for us to have. Maybe not you, but I would ask that you take it back, because that is a concern of mine, is that we build a school already in an overcrowded area, and the day this school is open, I bet you it will be overcrowded. And you can say what you want to say. I'm not, again, it's not knocking. I love NC State. You know I love NC State, Dr. Faulkner. But we've talked to the board, right? And they didn't have a clue. You can project all you want to project, but they didn't have a clue what was happening here in Smithfield, right? Is that true? Sure. And so I just say that we've got a lot going on, and my biggest fear is that we're going to allow them to go somewhere else. So I would ask that we do everything that we can to keep students close to our communities, because I think it's healthy that we have students, parents that are involved right here in our communities. So I'm not knocking anything that you guys say. I think this was a great presentation. It's just a very big passion of mine, and I'm really, really concerned about it because I haven't heard any commitments, and I would really like to know what that plan is, because if you're telling me that building this school is going to alleviate this, then there has to be a plan. Or this means, you know what I'm saying? There has to be a plan already developed, or this means nothing.
Your statements are great statements. Many people need to hear those statements. But what Dr. Faulkner and I can offer to you is a one-on-one meeting with Dr. Bracy and with the chairman of the school board and a couple other members of the school board, so long as we don't go past any kind of legal problems there. We can promise you that meeting can come to reality, and that meeting can come to reality real quick. As a matter of fact, if you would give us some dates that you would be convenient with Mr. Scott and anyone else that you'd like to have in that meeting, we'll be more than glad to take them back to the Board of Education and make arrangements for those meetings, because
Absolutely.
Before Dr. Faulkner and I were serving on this committee, we're making sure not part of the county is getting the benefits, but all of the county is getting benefits. When they first called me in to meet on the bond referendum last spring, that was one of the first things when I looked at it. I said, folks, this bond is not going to fly. We got to offer something to every school in this county and every area of this county. And they immediately backed up and did that.
Absolutely.
But we all know about these transfer problems.
Right.
As I said, I served on the advisory board many years at Smithfield Selma. Dr. Faulkner was with me. She took my charge as chairman after I stepped off the committee. But we were concerned of keeping our students as close to home as we possibly can.
Right. And it's just not the transfers I'm speaking. I'm speaking about the actual boundaries in the districts where these students will be allowed to go to school, right, when we build this new school. And please don't take my comments of what the great things are going on in Wilson's Mills and around, that, I'm not meaning that at all. I am talking specifically, though, just about Smithfield here and how this could impact our schools and with the development that we have going on. So to both of you, thank you very much for taking your time this evening. Thank you very much for traveling the county. I do think it is important. We have to build schools. We're the fastest growing county in the nation, right? And one of the fastest. And we have to do it. So thank you both for being here this evening. If there's no further comments, I know we went over the 15 minutes that I allowed you, but I think it's very important after hearing your presentation, I think it was very important that we did discuss some of this and allow the board time to answer any questions. So I hope that you both will be available should we have any other questions. Is it okay if we contact
Anytime,
you,
yes.
you guys? Okay.
And Mr. Scott has all my contact
And we can take you
information.
up on the meeting because I do
He's
believe
provided
it's
those dates, and
important.
we'll do it.
Okay, all right.
One last thing.
Hmm?
The Board of Education can ask you this, but Board of Education employees can ask you this. We need your support. We want you to vote for the bond. We want you to encourage people to support the bond. Johnson County's growing. The people are coming, whether we're prepared for them or not. The bond is our least expensive way to do it.
Okay.
Thank you very much for all of your time. Most of you know me personally, know how to get up with me. I will certainly get honest answers for you. If I don't know the answer, we'll find the people who do.
I know where you live, so I'll just stop by maybe something.
Thank you so much. Let me know you do. Be like at church, I'll have the donuts.
And
waiting
John,
for
I'll
us.
just step out the back door, all right? All right. Thank you both very much for coming this evening. We really do appreciate it. Thank you. Nice job on the presentation.
Thank you. And Mr. Scott, I'll pick up my thumb drive tomorrow sometime.
Brian has it for you. Not sure where he went, but he was going to get it to you yet this evening. So,
All right. Well, thank you.
yeah.
All right. Sorry, gentlemen, that went a little bit longer than the 15 minutes, but I think it is very important that that was discussed and we are informed on the bond issue. So we'll move on now to our first public hearing. This is not a quasi-judicial hearing, so there is no need for anyone to be sworn in at this time. But the first public hearing is Economic Development Incentive Grant. In accordance with North Carolina General Statute 158-7.1, Section A, the Town Council has called for a public hearing to consider an Economic Development Incentive Grant and adoption of Resolution Number 706. This time, I will entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Mr. Manager, you want me to turn that over to you, sir? Or to
Mr. Fleming's ready.
Mr.
so we'll
Fleming?
just let
All
him
right.
move right on.
Welcome this evening, Mr. Fleming, Mr. Jones. Welcome both members of the Johnston County Economic Advisory Committee. We appreciate you gentlemen being here this evening. If there's anyone else on the committee that I may have missed, welcome this evening. But at this time, Mike, I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor and town leadership. We do appreciate the opportunity to make this presentation to you tonight. Due to travel commitments, Chris Johnson could not be here. He's unable to attend this evening and asked that I step in and make the presentation. I am Mike Fleming, and I'm honored to have served as the Town of Smithfield's representative on the Johnston County Economic Development Advisory Board. I'm a lifelong resident of Smithfield, and I do appreciate this opportunity to serve this board and the citizens of Smithfield and Johnston County. Currently, the Johnston County Economic Development Office and its allies from Johnston Community College, Johnston County Public Schools, and the Triangle Chamber of Commerce are undertaking a workforce development strategic plan to address the fact that nearly 60,000 Johnston County residents leave the county daily to work elsewhere. This is a staggering number of residents that commute outside of Johnston County for work on a daily basis. This evening's project announcement will hopefully be a small step in turning those cars around and allow our local residents an opportunity to have higher paying jobs right here at home in Smith. It is Al Nair's desire to invest and build a state-of-the-art 260,000 square foot Class A manufacturing facility located in our town on Walpat Road. Nair is a leading commercial real estate development and design-build firm in multiple markets throughout the eastern United States. They have a very strong background, and their portfolio consists of large build-to-suit office, medical, and industrial projects. In addition to the $25 million investment, this project has the ability to create over 25 new jobs in the near future with an average salary of over $50,000 annually. This far exceeds the current averages for Johnston County and the town of Smithfield. As this board has supported previous economic development incentives, I'd like to reiterate to our citizens that any economic development incentive offer comes with no risk to the taxpayers, since these incentives only happen as a result of the company's commitment to follow through and invest in our community. The incentive equates to and comes from a percentage of the taxes that Nair or its client pays on the $25 million new investment. If the required benchmarks that are set forth in the agreement are not met, no incentive is given. Again, this comes at no risk to the taxpayers and the citizens. As with all economic development incentive grants, this has been vetted and approved by the Johnston County Economic Development Board, a board that consists of 14 business, civic, and community leaders that has representation from every municipality in Johnston County. As customary, this project and investment projections have also been evaluated by Dr. Mike Walden, retired professor and economist from North Carolina State University. His report showed that the monetary investment, as well as the jobs and ancillary job growth, is projected to be in the thousands annually for the town. Again, new investment, no risk. As County Attorney Jennifer Slusser often discusses, and perhaps Attorney Spence will attest, does this project check the 4 legal statutory boxes with regards to offering an economic development incentive? Number 1, does it meet the job creation requirement? 25 jobs with average salaries well above the county average. Number 2, does it meet the investment threshold? $25 million far exceeds the county's policy for $5 million investment. Number 3, does it meet the competition of other locations, something that we're all aware that there is a lot of competition for business investment throughout particularly the state and the southeast. Nair's footprint stretches across the southeast U.S. and could be investing in other areas. And number 4, does the project meet the jobs diversification requirement? With the loss of textiles and manufacturing jobs in the early 1990s, Smithfield has been greatly lacking in this area. The answer to all of these questions is an undeniable yes. It does meet the criteria. Therefore, I respectfully ask the Town Council to mirror the county's economic development incentive grant that was approved yesterday and presented before you this evening. At this time, I'd like to introduce Mr. Daniel Gunter with Nair and invite him to make a few comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Good evening, council members. I appreciate you guys the time this evening, and I'd like to start out by saying the partnership with town staff on our project thus far has been unbelievable. The efficiency, working through some issues that we've seen has been incredible. Mike and Randy taking the time to be here to support us in this project. Without partnerships like this, these projects don't happen without grants like we're talking about. That brought us here. This project wouldn't be here without these grants and these potential grants. So I want to thank you all for the partnership, and I'll leave it there. Mike covered all of the statistics. I'm happy to answer any particular questions about the project that anyone has. but also would just like to thank everybody again for the partnership here, and we're looking forward to this project.
Good. Thank you, sir. Any questions from the council at this time?
What, is this a spec built, or y'all just gonna start building, somebody wants it, change it to dry, or?
That's
I mean, dry
correct.
to cold refrigeration, or? it'd be on dry storage?
It's a 264,000 square foot industrial building, and so we will build the shell. And if at any time someone comes and says, we'd like to do this with it, we're flexible enough that we can put just about any use in there that we need.
So this is more of kind of how incentives these work. What if y'all, I mean, so y'all are a developer, will y'all continue to operate it even as a tenant comes in? Will y'all be the ones operating it, or will you sell it to a tenant?
It depends on the situation.
So if they sell, does the economic benefit transfer to the next?
It does. The economic benefit of the tax grants go with the property for a period of 5 years after they get certificates of occupancy.
Just curiosity of it. First one I've seen.
Yep, good question. Very good question. Any other questions?
I had one question. First of all, I had one question to Bob, since Bob is our attorney. The information that was presented are statements by the county attorney. You agree with those statements?
Yes, I think this is, basically you are refunding 50% of the taxes you've already collected, which is a pretty good deal, because you collect the other 50%, right?
But it meets the requirements, criteria that they were talking about?
Yes.
That's why I was
Yes.
making sure that our attorney also agrees with it. No offense to the county, but, that. And the second question was, I did have a question related to the, it shows on this list 5 years, it shows a 50% value, and it shows the property value at $25 million. But if during that time period, for some reason, the property value goes up during that time period, would this grant be for more money? Is it a 50%, or is it the $71,250 per year? You see what I mean? That's what I want to know. Is it 50/50 of the value of the property, or is it that for 5 years? That's what
It's a percentage of the tax revenue.
okay. So
you get
it
50%
could
of the
change.
tax revenue already paid.
Right, so it could change, my point is.
Could change.
Okay.
But you get 50%.
All right, this is an estimate based upon the current value.
That's right.
Right, okay.
Those figures are an estimate, and if you'll notice, the figure in the town agenda does not agree with the estimate in the actual contract, because the county contract had different figures, and since they do the valuations, when we did the contract, we went with them. But in either case, it's a good deal for the town, because we're getting the tax revenue in 2004, and we're refunding half of what we got, but keeping the rest in 2005.
So I guess my question was, and I think it's been answered, is that it's not the 71,250 is 50% of whatever that is. And it happens to be 71,250, okay, it was something else is something else, but it's 50% of whatever it is. That's
right.
correct?
That's right.
For 5 years.
Yeah, it's 50% of anything between 20 million and 35 million. That's what the contract says.
Okay. Thank you, sir. 2020 and 2023. 35. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Any other questions at this time? Okay. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much for your interest in Smithfield.
Absolutely.
And we certainly do appreciate you're looking at Smithfield, and looking forward to some exciting things, hopefully.
We are too. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming this evening. Is there anyone else in the audience wishing to speak on this matter? If so, please come forward at this time and state your name and address for the record. Okay. Seeing none? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All right. I'm sorry.
We had a motion and a second.
There was a motion and a second.
Yeah.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Motion carries. I'll now entertain a motion to adopt resolution number 706, 15-2022. And with that, to also approve the Economic Development Incentive Agreement. Allow me to sign.
I make a motion that we approve resolution number 706-15-2200. That's what is on this list. Okay? And the economic incentive.
Economic
Agreement.
Development
Thank you.
Incentive Agreement.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adopt resolution number 7066, and to approve the Economic Development Incentive Agreement. And I think I had a motion and a second. Yes, sir. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming this evening. To our economic development partners, Randy, Mike, thank you so much for being here this evening. And again, thank you for everything that you do for the county, but most importantly, as our representative, what you do for the town of Smithfield, Mike. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming this evening. If we can do anything, please let us know. And good luck with your project. Excuse me. We'll move now to our next public hearing. This also is not a quasi-judicial hearing, so no need for anyone to be sworn in. Next public hearing is CZ-22-03, Blue Line Aviation. The applicant is requesting rezoning of 14.43 acre tract of land from R20A residential zoning district to a PUD conditional zoning district. The property considered for approval is located on the west side of Swift Creek Road, approximately 650 feet north of its intersection with Airport Industrial Drive, and further identified as Johnston County Tax ID 15J08015B. This time, I will entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Stephen, I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. I want to make one clarification on the staff report. On the action form, it says the planning staff and the planning board recommend approval. Planning staff recommends approval. Planning board, if you recall, recommended denial based on parking, fire access, and not meeting the comp plan. And I'll reference those items in the report tonight. So the mayor did a pretty good job summarizing this, but it's a mix of uses of a residential dormitory for Blue Line Aviation with classrooms and office, a hotel, and a flex industrial office building with public infrastructure. This is the location of the property. It's just north of the Airport Industrial Park and just northwest of the airport on Swift Creek Road. Behind it, you can see a residential subdivision, and to the north on the map here is some undeveloped land. This is the master plan drawing. I'll get into it further, but as you go from the road to the back, first you have a parking lot, you have a residential dorm facility. It moves on to the office and classroom for the Blue Line Aviation. The next building is a hotel, and the one furthest away from Swift Creek Road is the flex office building. This is some statistics about the application itself. It is a PUD conditional zoning district, which is a mixed-use district. It is in the Wilson Mills Fire District. It is in the Duke Power area. They are in the Town of Smithfield Water and Sewer District, and that would be achieved through a master meter on a county line. This is the property. It was recently cleared of trees. The front half acre to about an acre has been graded with a gravel parking lot that was installed, actually in violation of the code. The center of the site is remnants of a formal gravel storage yard, which has all been removed. There have been no permits for development on this site, and none of the paving or impervious was approved. This is a picture of the existing conditions. So we're looking at the parking lot at Swift Creek Road, which happened earlier this year, and then the rest of the site moves on. So, the big issue with this development is it's a residential PUD in an area that was never envisioned as a as a mixed-use PUD. This area is guided for industrial, as you can see here on the map on the right, which is really just, jobs like you see in the Airport Industrial Park or the airport itself. So with the approval of such a plan, master plan, rezoning, you would be amending the comp plan. And so whatever you decide tonight, you need to reference the comp plan, whether it's in favor or in denial, because if it's in favor, you're amending the comp plan. If it's in denial, you're denying it because it doesn't meet the comp plan. And it's at least one of the considerations for denial if there is a recommendation for denial. But I want to make that clear that, this plan has not been envisioned. We've had others that we've approved that did not meet the comp plan because the council thought the vision of the developer was a good vision that the town wanted to adopt. So just keep that in mind. The developer has offered to voluntarily annex this property to the town of Smithfield, and that is the next item on the agenda tonight. So keep that in mind. As an analysis here, we were looking at this development and felt the phase line ought to be further into the site, just past the first lateral axis. And the reason being that the first building is the residential dorm facility for Blue Line. The second building is a future building, which is an office classroom for the Blue Line Aviation also, which in a sense is they're sharing parking, they're sharing the same principal user. We felt that should be the phase, and we've talked to the developer, and they've agreed that that's a good place to put the phase line. So I wanted to, you can double check with the developer later, but that is the conversation we had, and I wanted to make that point. And so, as this develops, the first phase, the infrastructure for the first phase would be developed, which includes that lateral access and enough of that road so a fire apparatus could turn around. So this is the detail of that first phase. You can see out by Swift Creek Road, there's a larger parking lot. That parking lot will primarily serve the Blue Line Aviation facility across the street. And if you recall, there's some conditions of approval related to the DOT improvements, making sure that whatever DOT recommends is robust for safety. This is a very dangerous road for pedestrian crossings. And DOT has some requirements for connectivity all the way to the Blue Line facility on the airport property to this property. And the area emboldened on this plan is the first phase of the residential dorm facility. So that would be where the students for the Blue Line Aviation would come and spend some time while they're in class. There's a second wing to that would occur later with additional residential dorms. And then that rectangular building would be the classroom and some administrative office for Blue Line. So that would comprise of the campus, and there's more parking there that would be shared. So people residing in the dorms wouldn't have to get in a car and drive to the classrooms. They're right there already, so it's an efficient use of the parking. It's a shared use. And if you recall, that was one of the issues we had at the planning board. If you saw in the minutes that the parking didn't really make sense. So some rearranging of the site now, all the Blue Line facilities share a shared parking. Each and every use, the hotel and the Flex Industrial also has its own parking that makes sense for that part of the site. So phase one can stand alone, have enough parking. Phase two or other phases could stand alone and have enough parking. Okay? So again, the access would be off Swift Creek Road. A study was done, and DOT has some preliminary recommendations. A driveway permit would be required, and any recommendations of the NCDOT would have to be complied with. And again, that includes a sidewalk up on the receiving side on the airport property to sidewalks so a user could get continuously from the Blue Line Aviation property all the way to this parking area and school area. And there's a condition of approval related to that. Within this development, the developer is proposing 27-foot wide back-to-back streets within a 50-foot right-of-way. The general standard is 60 feet, but the ordinances allow a 50-foot if the town council approves it. I'm usually an advocate for a 60-foot wide right-of-way, but in this case, this is a very long linear site, and I think a 60-foot right-of-way would make the uses somewhat unusable. The site would be very difficult to develop at that point. Reducing parking, reducing building size, it would make it pretty hard to develop this in a meaningful way. 27-foot wide back-to-back streets would not allow for on-street parking. So that is a consideration. It's a narrower street. Lateral connections have been shown as required, both to the north where it's undeveloped land, none to the south because that's fully developed. Throughout the development, minimum building setbacks from the public right-of-way are substantially reduced. As you know, typically in a B3 district, or really any district, we have somewhere between 25 to 35 foot in setbacks, in some cases 50 from highways. So I will get into that further, just so you understand it. Sidewalks are shown throughout the interior street on the north side of the road. A 5-foot sidewalk is required along Swift Creek Road, not shown in the master plan. One of the comments at the planning board was that there were a lot of issues with fire access. The developer has done a good job with this map and with some changes to the site plan addressing all the fire marshal's concerns. And this map shows how a fire apparatus could move through the site, making all the turning radiuses. So the building setbacks, there's a data table on there that talks about setbacks, but they're not necessarily accurate depending on what you consider front yard. I think the developer was looking on the exterior of this property and meeting those setbacks, but within the development itself, in phase 1, the 24-foot dorm is set back 16 feet from the street right-of-way and 25 from the property to the north. So the rear is not the issue. It is close to the future public right-of-way. The future 2-story classroom is, sorry, the first one was the dorm. This one's the classroom. The classroom is about 14 feet from the future right-of-way and 20 feet from the lateral side street that's heading north. Future hotel is roughly 28 feet from the adjacent property to the north. So those are somewhat reduced from typical zoning districts. Again, there are no PUD standards to follow, so all we can do is kind of compare to what is typical in similar developments and what works on this master plan. So does it work on this master plan? Are the buildings too close to the street? Are the buildings well adorned to look nice against a public street? Is there enough landscaping? What do the buildings look like? And how will it feel on the street? Is it a good pedestrian? Is it comfortable for pedestrians? Is it safe? The setback from Swift Creek Road is beyond 50 feet, so they've met that street setback. Utilities are not possible. Development is not possible without public utilities. And as I said before, that would be achieved through a master meter on a county line, and they're building a new pump station on the airport property just down the road, which would allow this development to proceed. This master plan has, one thing this development has done is it's amped up the landscaping and buffering from what is required in the UDO. They have not shown all the shrub details, but they have provided a more robust buffering and street yards. I'm not going to get into the details. I pretty much described the parking already, but if you have any specific questions on parking later, we can go over it. But, you know, the Flex Industrial has more than enough parking. The hotel has adequate number of parking as per code requirements, and the Phase 1 is a shared parking situation, so all the Blue Line facilities share parking, and it's a meaningful number because once you're parked, you don't have to get back in your car and drive to the other facility. You're already there. So there won't be additional cars going to an office classroom. They're already there. The developer has shown 2 stormwater ponds on the property, and the design is reasonable that it could work. You know, obviously, further engineering will be required as this would proceed, but with the 2 plans, with the 2 ponds and the way the grades work, the town engineer believes it's an adequate solution. They've done a good job showing trash recycling enclosures throughout the site in meaningful locations. They had to move them to deal with the fire access, but they found locations for them. There would be a property owners association managing the common spaces in the development, particularly the stormwater ponds. The PUD master plan shows ground-mounted sign for Phase 1, but there's no indication of signs in Phases 2 or beyond. There are no architectural standards proposed. This is a rendering of the residential classroom. It's a manufactured type building with some adornment at the entryways. Again, there's a future hotel, a future classroom, and a future Flex Industrial, and we don't know what they're going to look like. And with a PUD, again, you can ask for, it's a give and take process, so, you know, it's a consideration is often with, for reduction of some standards, you can ask for higher standards in other areas. In one area that you can often look to is architecture or landscaping like they provided, or more robust, you know, lighting plan, something interesting. So those are the kind of things we can kind of consider with the PUD. So again, the UDO lacks specific PUD standards. The only standards it talks about is an increased road structure, like shorter blocks and more lateral connections. And they've actually, I think, accomplished that. In terms of other specific standards, again, it's just kind of a, what does it look like? What do you expect to see given the deviations that they're requesting? The developer had provided a list of standards that have gone above and beyond, and some of them, I guess I didn't fully agree with. With setbacks, I just want to give you the idea here. Typical UDO standards, again, 25 foot for the front for O&I. B3 is 35. Light industrial is 50. They've proposed 15 feet for the hotel and dormitory, you know, plus or minus 15 feet. For architectural standards, none's required, but typically provided with a conditional zoning. They've not provided any. The transportation plan that was approved as part of the town plan 2-3 years ago, they recommend a 34-foot back-to-back and a 60-foot right-of-way for this type of street. They are providing a 24-foot back-to-back and a 50-foot right-of-way, and a 5-foot sidewalk is required. They've not provided one. That's a condition of approval. These are the standards that the developer has claimed exceeds UDO standards. The staff has gone through that and really think these are the main ones. The roundabout will exceed the minimum turning radiuses specified in the standards manual. As I mentioned earlier, the street yard and buffer yards are amped up. It's more robust. Parking islands are larger than required, and there are more of them. The spacing between them is reduced, which provides more landscaping. And they've provided open space. We don't have an open space requirement per se, but they have shown 7% open space in the development. So I just want to go through this again. When you're approving a zoning, you need to look at these three statements or standards. One, that it's consistent with the comp plan. And in this case, the development is not consistent. And if the council approves it, it should acknowledge it, and that they are hereby amending the comp plan. And this will be developed in consistency with the UDO, as amended by the PUD master plan, because the master plan is the ordinance essentially setting the design standards for this development. So they will have to develop this plan according to the master plan and applicable codes. And it will be compatible with the surrounding land uses, at least in staff's opinion. They've got robust landscaping on the periphery, more than meeting town requirements. And it's guided for industrial. It's going to be, you know, better than an industrial look when it's done. So with that, staff is recommending recommending approval with 9 conditions. I'm going to read these. The parking lot entrances be constructed in accordance with the town's standard driveway detail. We require a kind of a concrete apron. It holds up better over time and is a nicer amenity. That the landscape plan be provided meeting the minimum requirements. They've shown that it's going to more or less exceed requirements, but there are some other details such as foundation plantings. That a 5-foot sidewalk be provided along Swift Creek. The PUA declarations be submitted for review by the town attorney. Architectural standards be drafted and included in the PUA declarations. We don't have any yet, but at least we want consistency throughout this development once they are drafted. And that is a condition that the council should consider. You know, there are no standards. That flashing lights or other safety equipment be installed as permitted by NCDOT to ensure public safety at the crosswalk on Swift Creek, along with other DOT improvements. And that phase 1 include the future 2-story simulator classroom, school administration building, and the lateral access road, which the developer has agreed to. And that all parking areas be paved with bituminous or concrete with standard curb and gutter. And with that, I would entertain any questions.
Any questions for Stephen?
Stephen, you did say this the applicant has been in violation currently and has not paid his fines or fees yet? Did you
There
say
is
that?
there is a code enforcement action against the applicant,
Right.
which is a separate matter. It's a code compliance matter. And to this day, I'm not aware of any fees being paid. I mean, the goal of the goal of the planning department in code enforcement is to get compliance, not so much to collect fees. We want to see compliance, and we generally work with applicants the best we can to achieve that compliance.
Then why don't we set a fee schedule to fine people for not
Fines
collecting fees?
fines are kind of the hammer to try to get compliance.
Well, it's been 8 months. I
Right.
think it's time to put the hammer down.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Well, yeah, we've been working hard to get compliance.
Okay. That's my question. If you're not going to assess a fine, then don't put it in the fee schedule.
Yeah, the town, staff allows the fines to accumulate to about $1,000, then we turn it over to the town attorney to handle. And so that's where it's at today.
All right.
Any other questions for Mr. Stephen at this time?
Yeah, I had a question about recommendation number 7, about the safety equipment to be installed as permitted by DOT. Who determines what is adequate safety equipment? I mean,
DOT sets the minimum standard. We're trying to encourage DOT to have a robust safety device there.
Okay, so DOT actually sets what would be appropriate. Okay,
That's right.
When I read
But
it,
the-
it kind of,
The planning board is asking for like a flashing light, something more robust, because that is a very dark, dangerous road in the evenings and even during the day. It's sight lines are really poor and traffic speeds are high.
With the, going off of what John just said, the safety, one of my biggest concerns. Just by changing, what if we just change on number 7, flashing lights and other safety equipment? So therefore, we can't, would that help push to do the extra on the safety?
As long as DOT goes along with it.
Okay. Well, I guess we can't overrule DOT, but I really, it was a couple weeks ago, had to cut through, coming from Raleigh, had to cut over to south side of town, and cut through there, come around the corner, and, not trying to call anybody out, but a student was walking across, looking down at the phone. Fortunately, I just didn't have to slam on brakes, but just these extra safeties. I know we I think can get complacent walking across the same street every day. So I like just robust safety. How's the lighting at night? I don't know. I don't ride by there at night. Does it need more lighting on each side? I just really want to convey to DOT that we want some robust, even if it slows traffic down, that doesn't matter. I mean, there's going to be 100 kids walking, I shouldn't say kids, young adults walking across twice a day, 200 crossings a day, safety is my big thing.
Yeah, comments?
I had a
Questions?
question about the comprehensive growth plan issue with that. When the comprehensive growth plan is developed, it's developed based upon guesstimation of what we think. Isn't that correct? I mean, we feel that this would be a better place for this type of development to help guide the development in those areas. Isn't that correct? It's more of a guideline
In a
that we set up.
sense, I mean, it's our plan for the future. It can be amended, as
Right.
we've had an amendment last year.
Sure.
After Amazon went in, we felt like things had changed. It developed a little bit differently than we thought.
Right.
And so we had an amendment to it. When it was developed, the consultants and community input didn't suggest anything different than what we already had generally planned for that area, which was industrial. So it was industrial in the previous comp plan. It's continued to be industrial in that area with this comp plan. And so that is the current guidance. There was never any impetus to change it with the comp plan. There was no new vision, per se. There are other parts of the town where it was very clear that development pressures had changed, and maybe they were outdated, and definitely those areas needed an update. This is something unique, not anticipated,
Right.
and it's not guided that way in the comp plan. The comp plan says this is more industrial. Does it make sense to have a hotel, mixed-use, dorm, aviation school in this location? And that's really the council's decision, is what is that vision? And the public hearing, is that part of it? What is the vision for this piece of land? Does it meet the community needs and community vision?
Well, but having an aviation school beside an airport makes logical sense. So I mean, that's that does make logical sense. That's not something we should even. That's not really for debate. So I mean, I think that's the key is that I don't see. I know that we said it's comprehensive. I realize that but we didn't anticipate. To your point, we did not anticipate this type of thing coming up when we envisioned. Because if we had thought about that when we were doing, say, you know what, this would be a good place for a school, then we probably would put in a comprehensive plan for that and anticipating a school there. We didn't have no idea about that. So I'm just saying the comprehensive plan that says this, it's not really. It sounds like more negative than it really is. It's just that we didn't have a plan for it at the time because no one really thought of that at the time.
Correct.
So, and I think though my question too is how does a for-profit school, industrial school, because it's an industrial school, I mean, teaching aviation, how does it classify? Because it's not residential, it's not industrial, so how does it classify? Understand what I'm saying? How does that type of school classify? 'Cause it's not residential, like I said, and it's not industrial, so.
We're looking at as like hospitality or school or a dorm facility. I mean, it's somewhat.
How does other communities
Oh, I don't
that
know.
have
I'm not sure.
private industrial training facilities, because that's what this is, how do they classify it? Because that's what it would be, that is what it would be, need to be classified as, correct? Because that's what it is.
I don't know if there's definitions that are that fine-tuned. A lot
don't know
of times
though,
it comes
right?
to, I don't know.
Okay.
A lot of times it comes to interpretation of the code. And
So my point
we
is,
felt
then,
like it was nothing similar to any industrial we had.
right? So therefore, the issue is, so if we make a recommendation to amend the comprehensive growth plan to allow this to go forward, we don't know what that code would actually be per se, because we've got to do the research to make sure that we have the right code. Would that not be a fair statement? Because we don't know, since we
Repeat
don't
that.
know, we just say
Repeat
to know
that
what it
again.
would be.
I misunderstood that. Say it again.
Okay. So if we make an approval, then one of the recommendations, if we approve it, we have to approve the change in the comprehensive growth plan. But we don't know what we're going to change it to, because we don't know what that is.
Yeah.
Since we know it's not residential, right, and we know it's not industrial, so what is it?
Mixed use.
It's a mixed use. That's what we classify it as.
Yep, it's mixed use.
Okay.
So how would you determine your front yard setback? Would you use it as an O&I or B3, or how would you classify it then?
Well, you just got to look at the master plan. I mean, looking at the plan and the layout, what do you believe is appropriate? And it's again, it's aesthetics, it's public safety, it's, utilities.
I just can't see where 15 foot would be big enough if you're going down a 2-lane road at night going 45 mile an hour and you've got a hotel 15 foot off the road. I just don't see how that could be safe.
Well, if you look at downtown, those buildings are 15 feet off the curb,
Yeah, they've been here since the 1900s though.
but it's a similar development pattern. And is that appropriate where this is and how this is laid out? I mean, those are the questions. There's no real right or wrong answer. It's kind of an interpretation of what you think works. Again, aesthetically, for public safety, what are the pluses and minuses of the downtown type development? Does this meet that standard?
Stephen, one question about the roads. Are these going to, being that it would be obviously annexed if we approved, these then therefore become town-maintained roads and our roads?
It would become a town-maintained road with annexation.
Adding to our 62 miles of, that we can't pay for in 120 years to repave. Got it. Different conversation.
Is there any thoughts of putting some type of railing along the side of the road to prevent drivers that are not alert, for whatever purpose that might be, to not run into the buildings since they're close to the road? I mean, that's a concern.
I don't see this as a high-speed, personally, I don't, it's not a very long street. I mean,
Right.
it's a small site. You'd be through the whole development.
I wasn't talking about
even at a
inside the
slow
development.
speed.
I was talking more Swift Creek Road. I wasn't
Oh,
talking about in the
Swift Creek
community. Now I'm talking about on the outside of the road with the people that are going across. A lot of times more than 45 mile an hour.
There's no curbs. It's a ditch section. It's a DOT street. There are no bollards or anything proposed, but there are trees proposed in that street yard. So it'd be trees and shrubs, and over time, that's going to be an impediment to vehicles running off the road. And
You put lights out there, right?
if there were lights out there, it would help too.
You could ask for lights.
Well, that's like, I think Councilman Stevens
Yeah,
was saying on number 7, something to that line.
Well, I was more talking about at the crosswalk, but I mean, there should be
Yeah,
lighting
but it
throughout
could
the.
tie into that, because it needs more
Yeah.
lighting. It's got to have more lighting,
Yeah,
really. I
pedestrian
think. And
lighting.
It would go, I think it would fall in 7. Is that what you're saying?
I guess it could.
I mean, there will be more ambient light in general with this new road going through. There'll be, light spill from the streetlights in the development, but there can be specific lights at the crosswalk at Swift Creek Road as well.
The comment about the guardrails off of Swift Creek Road, all the actual buildings are off of Swift Creek Road beyond the parking
Beyond
lot,
50.
Okay,
correct?
okay, that's right, that's
So the
right, okay.
buildings, even though there's a setback, those are on the internal
Off the
street.
internal
Okay.
street.
All right, that's cool.
That's right.
And I believe though, as we were just talking about too, since the school's actually in Duke Energy's power district, they install lights. They'll do street lights for you pretty cheap and just charge you $5 a month or something. So it's really not much. They do that. So, I mean, you know, I think they should definitely consider some type of a lighting on the street as part of the requirements. 'Cause I think that's safety purposes. That also helps out with visual. People can see people. But there's also, let's face it, we live in a society today that is that some people are not as safe as they used to be. You know, I'm talking about the criminal behavior out there has increased. So having more lighting is always beneficial, especially for young people. So I think that's something we need to be concerned about.
Just to clarify, the first three buildings, what was the order they were going to be built, or?
First, in Phase 1, the first building is the residential dorm. They've shown a Phase 1, Phase 2 of that building, and then a future classroom admin building on that same Phase 1. Then it goes to hotel, and then it goes to office flex.
Okay, so the first building would actually supplement the school that's across the street currently. And then the second building, whenever that comes down the road, then the dorm would operate out of, or those students in the dorm would then operate out of that second building except for the flight part?
The students would be attending class in that building.
Well, right now, they're going across the street.
Yeah, it'd probably be classes in both, I would guess.
Do we have, so back to the lighting issue. In the, for the new facility, I mean, for the school, is there a site plan lighting for the lighting for the parking lots, for the facility, you know, out there?
This is just a master plan at this point. We don't have that level of detail. But, you know, there is if there's lighting, it has to meet the town standards.
Okay.
Of course, they're going to want lighting. There'll be some street lighting that's required, and it'll have to meet town standards.
So, okay, we're going to already take care of all that anyway, 'cause
Yeah.
that's part of the.
But the
part
issue
town
of the
requirement.
crosswalk at Swift Creek, I mean, that is a
Right,
very
that's something
acute
different.
situation where we need to make sure we have adequate lighting at that crosswalk.
I was thinking about like for this, you know, conditionals, that has nothing to do with, we've already covered. We covered that outside of this already
Correct.
as part of something else. That's what I'm saying. So really, we can take care of that. That's why I just want to verify what we put in, don't put in. We don't have to worry about that because that's already going to be a requirement because it's already a requirement. Okay. I understand that.
So, I'll make sure I'm clear on one other aspect with the fire trucks. So, really, there's only going to be one entrance. They show two on the north side, but there's trees to the north side of the
Yeah,
boundary.
there's one entrance. There's one entrance at Swift Creek Road currently.
Right.
But they've provided two lateral access. One will be in Phase 1, which of course won't materialize to anything until we have future development further to the north.
Right.
But at some point, there'll be another way in, another way out.
For them to get occupancy into any of these homes, they have to have two
No, one will be,
dorms.
one satisfies.
One satisfies.
With the lateral access.
Okay.
So these 50-foot roads will be built to our town standards.
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions at this time for Stephen? Okay. This time I'll ask if there's anyone in the audience that would wish to speak on this. Please come forward at this time.
I'll let these guys speak, probably. You want these guys to speak first?
Yeah, sorry.
Or do you want to hear the blue line presentation first?
Let's go with the presentation first, and then we'll come back to you, Mr. Lane, if
Okay,
that's all right.
Let me load up his presentation.
Thank you, Stephen. Good evening, Mayor Moore, Mayor Pro Tem Dunn, members of the Town Council. My name is Patrick Biker. I'm with Morningstar Law Group. Our address is 421 Fayetteville Street, Suite 530 in Raleigh. I'm here tonight representing Blue Line Aviation, which is named in honor of our law enforcement first responders who serve and protect our communities. For this agenda item, I will give an overview of Blue Line's project and how it exceeds Smithfield ordinance standards, and do my best not to be redundant to Mr. Wensman's excellent report. And then I will be followed by Emily Rubio of Blue Line Aviation. Ms. Rubio will discuss why approval of this rezoning is important to address our nation's serious shortage of pilots, as well as her personal vision to create a clear pathway to a career in aviation for Johnston County high school students. After Ms. Rubio, our president of Blue Line will also speak, and his name is Mr. Adam Walters. He'll give just a brief concluding statement. We hope to take less than 10 minutes of your time tonight, Mr. Mayor. No problem. As Stephen referred to, this is a fairly tough site to develop because of the shape of the parcel. Now, while it contains 14.4 acres, it's only 275 feet wide, but it's over 2,000 feet deep. And again, at the outset, I want to thank Planning Director Wensman, Senior Planner Helmer, Fire Chief Brown, and Fire Marshal Holloman for all their guidance that they gave us to achieve the final version of the project that's before you this evening. We agree with all the conditions that Mr. Wensman enumerated at the end of his staff report, and I want to state that on the record. We recognize that there have been zoning issues on this site, and we wish to move forward and resolve the fine issue in the near future. I also want to thank former Planning Board Chairman Upton, who graciously gave us some time after we lost at the Planning Board, and he gave us suggestions for how to modify our plan so that it might have been a different outcome at the Planning Board. And so I want to emphasize that the plan that's before you tonight has been reviewed and amended because of the input we received from the Planning Board and the folks who spoke at that public hearing, the fine work of your planning staff, and also, of course, your fire department. To go over our proposed project just briefly to amplify a few points Stephen made, our first phase reflects what Blue Line needs to expand its enrollment and better serve our students. Please keep in mind that the first phase of this rezoning will not increase traffic materially over what is on Swift Creek Road today, and we will work out all the required traffic safety improvements with NCDOT and Duke Power at the site plan stage, Duke Energy. Towards the front, again, there's a dormitory building, and this is what will essentially use up all the available sewer capacity that's available at the site today. And so we want to thank Town Manager Scott for helping us identify what the sewer capacity is at this location. Besides the dormitory, Blue Line plans to build an instructional building, primarily to house 2 flight simulators. Behind that, in future phases, based on what will be there with improved sewer capacity, we anticipate a relatively small hotel, which again is consistent with airports around the country, and then a flex building that's similar to the established businesses that are already located along Airport Industrial Drive. Again, as you can see, there's a long list of ways in which our conditional use zoning exceeds Smithfield ordinance standards. I don't mean to go through these in detail since you have a long agenda tonight, but it's important to note that we are exceeding the landscaping standards so that the parking area along Swift Creek Road will be attractive. And also during the Planning Board public hearing, we heard concerns from our neighbor, Michael Profit, who lives at 116 Sunset Point Drive. To be a good neighbor, I wish to highlight that while the Smithfield ordinance standard along the rear property line is a 30-foot buffer, we are providing Mr. Profit and the other neighbors along Sunset Point Drive with almost double that, a 50-foot buffer. And last, in accordance with the Town Council's recognition of Fire Prevention Week, we're going above and beyond what Smithfield ordinances require in terms of fire code, building coverage, and circulation. These 2 examples of exceeding fire code standards reflects how Blue Line puts the safety of its students first, and that certainly applies for the pedestrian connectivity to the existing airport facilities. In closing, the main reason we are here tonight is to expand the capacity of Blue Line Aviation to educate the next generation of pilots that our country desperately needs. This picture shows the type of flight simulator we hope to install, and again, there will be 2 of them to better serve our students. To describe how this rezoning will benefit our nation and our young people here in Johnston County, our next speaker is Emily Rubio. Emily? And then she'll be followed by Blue Line's president, Adam Walters.
Good evening, Mayor Moore, Mayor Pro Tem Dunn, and members of Town Council. My name is Emily Rubio, and I live in the town of Smithfield. I have lived here in Johnston County all my life, and I graduated from Princeton High School in 2021. I have the following certificates as a flight instructor. At Blue Line Aviation, I'm a certified flight instructor, I'm a certified instrument instructor, and a multi-engine instructor. I am proud to be a flight instructor because it is one of the most rewarding jobs, being able to educate the next generation of pilots. I want to share with the Town Council that our country will need hundreds and thousands of new pilots over the next 20 years. Here are just a few of the new headlines to emphasize that point. We are hitting the ceiling for our enrollment at Blue Line Aviation. Today, we are serving around 75 to 100 students, but with your approval of the rezoning and annexation, that would allow us to double our numbers of students up to 200. I want to add that I think aviation is a great career choice because based on my experience, a career in aviation is open to all our young people, young men, and young women in all races and backgrounds. I want to ask that the council approve this rezoning so I can personally take lead on exposing students in Johnston County high schools to how rewarding a career in aviation can be. I will also stress that being a student at Blue Line Aviation takes a lot of hard work and self-discipline. I hope that all of you will vote for this rezoning so we can double the numbers of students at Blue Line. I want to create a career pathway for our students here in Johnston County so that Smithfield will be a home to one of the leading flight schools in our nation and be a place to go to for our students to obtain training. They will need to meet serious shortage of pilots facing our country. Please vote yes for this rezoning and annexation before you tonight. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and Councilman. My name is Adam Walters, President and Partner at Blue Line Aviation. Blue Line is here tonight to seek a decision on our rezoning and annexation request before you all. Blue Line exists for the sole purpose of making air transportation safer for future generations to come. To that extent, we are expanding rapidly and are on track to train upwards of 200 students in our career pilot program over the next 12 months. Just the flight school alone today employs 54 people and is on track to increase to over 70 to support our increased growth. Our vision is to be the trusted leader in flight training by breaking the mold, doing what hasn't been done before, and turning the impossible into routine. We accomplish this every day by living out our core values of safety, innovation, accountability, integrity, and excellence in everything that we do. We would like to continue this growth and hope that the town of Smithfield can join our progress in this continued growth. Over the past years, we've had productive conversations with other municipalities around the country in search of expanding our operations and furthering our mission. My hope tonight is that the town of Smithfield can show that they are in support of our expanding growth and making this country a better place by voting yes for our project. A vote against our project will simply serve as an affirmation that Blue Line will not continue to develop our business here and instead focus our growth efforts elsewhere. Thank you for your time tonight, and I look forward to hearing you vote for progress in Johnston County.
Mayor Pro Tem and members of the council, we're happy to try and answer any questions that you may have, but that concludes our presentation for this evening, and we thank you again for your time tonight. Respectfully ask for your support. Thank you.
Any questions at this time for the applicant?
Just a couple of general questions,
Yes,
if you
sir.
don't mind. Currently, y'all have around 75 students at a time, is that correct?
Ballpark, yes, sir.
And that's your top capacity now, for the most part?
Pretty much, yeah, yeah.
How long does this training, I understand there's different levels of training, but a basic instructor, is it a 12-month program, or?
That's above my pay grade.
That's what I'm here for. It's about a 5.5 or 6 month program. So over that course of, yes, we have 75 students on campus at any given time. Over the course of 12 months, we're going to have double that.
Where do those students typically live at now while they're going to your, because I'm assuming there's people from not just Johnson County, but around different places coming to this facility. So where do they live?
Yes, sir, that's a good question. It's actually a rarity now that I sign an enrollment form from someone that lives in the area. So most of our students currently come from all over the country. So currently we have leases on about 14 separate apartments in the area that we provide to our students. Shared apartments, they get it at a slightly reduced rate than if they were to go on their own. Some students choose to rent an apartment, rent a house on their own. Some people roommate together, but the majority of them do live in apartment housing right now.
So theoretically, a high school graduate can graduate from high school in June and be commercial rated by the wintertime, by the end of the year?
Yes, sir, they can do that, and if they stay with us, they're going to be making $44,000 a year on salary with paid health insurance. They'll work with us for about a year and a half, 2 years, and then they'll go on to a position at a regional airline where they can be making upwards of $80,000 their first year there.
So within 2 years, so within 2 years, they can be making nearly six figures?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. And what's the average tuition? I mean, obviously it's not.
Average tuition ranges about $75,000 to upwards of $85,000, and then there's housing costs and everything in there. So it's comparable to a college education. You can do it in an eighth of the time, and then you start earning significantly more right away.
If I may amplify that, one important point about this first phase is to build this dormitory so that we'd have a lower cost housing option for our students. As you know, room and board is a serious expenditure at any higher educational facility.
Any other questions, comments at this time for the applicants?
Well, since we had an earlier question asked that we didn't put on the, one of the issues that was brought up by my co-compadre here about the fines. The question is that we were talking about condition number 10, that one, you said you agreed on 9 conditions, but there was condition 10 that I think we had discussed was that because there is some outstanding zoning issues that's not been resolved, that we would clearly require that to be done as part of this so that we wouldn't have that going forward. We just have a clean slate, you know what I mean?
Right.
So that we would make a condition number 10, that's what I'm recommending, that we put a condition number 10 that all zoning issues be resolved as one of the conditions for this zoning.
Prior to pulling a,
Well, it's
if
for the
Mr.
zoning.
Wisman's
It's
okay, prior
just
to
the same
pulling a
other
building
conditions
permit?
that are required.
Right.
I mean, that's what I think we had discussed that.
Yes, that is correct.
That way we have that, and then that's something I think you guys are agreeable to do.
Sure, we'll work on it with the planning director and the town
Right,
attorney.
then that's
We're
what I'm saying.
happy to-
I think that's one of the biggest holdups that some people might have had related to that we still have some outstanding issues related to zoning need to be resolved, and so tie it all in one thing, and then we, makes life easier.
Yeah, we certainly appreciate the point. It's just been, we had a lot of work to do to get this plan we think it's a really good plan before the town council tonight. And so we've been working hard on that, but that was not to minimize the point that Councilman Wood brought up.
Any other questions this time? Okay.
Do we need a motion to add that to the?
Well, we
we're willing to do
yeah, let us get through the public
Okay,
hearing,
yeah, I'm
and then we can circle back around.
While we
with
had
any-
them up there, I wanted to.
Yes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's
Okay.
appropriate time to ask the
Okay.
questions, and we heard the testimony, and they agreed to satisfying those conditions is what I understood to be said.
Yep.
So,
Thank you.
which I think is very good, right? I mean, as the planning director said, his job is to try to get things either be in compliance or to bring them into compliance. So the fact that by going through this process, we'll hopefully bring a property that's not been in compliance into compliance, I think is a very positive. That's my opinion. That being said, anyone else in the audience wishing to speak on this matter? If you will, please state your name and address for the record, please.
My name's Mark Lane, and I live on Yelverton Grove Road in Smithfield. As y'all know, the planning board did not recommend this to y'all because of inadequate parking. I don't see where any parking has been added.
It's the rearrangement so that the shared parking between the residential unit and the classrooms can now be shared. So before, it didn't make sense. It didn't make sense to share it when it was across a road. Now it's all on one campus, and it's you park once and you can go to the dorm or you can go to the classroom. It's a shared parking situation in phase one, which makes sense. And with the classroom, and its primary use is classroom, not office, it's based on the number of students in the classroom. And those students are in the dorms right next door, so it really does make sense that it's a shared use. That's how the parking works. Previously, when we discussed it at the planning board, that building was labeled more office. And in talking with the developer, they said, well, there's an office in there, but it's primarily a classroom. And when you look at it that way, those students are already on the campus, if that's its primary use. Yes, there'll be some administrative offices in it, but it's not an office building like, it was first presented as.
So are you looking at the total project, or are you looking at the phases to make the parking adequate?
Each phase can stand on its own. So phase one, there's adequate parking for phase one. There's adequate parking for the hotel, and there's adequate parking for the flex space. So whether it's 2 phases, 1 phase, or 3 phases, it works.
Okay.
How many students?
Oh,
I'm sorry, Mark. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I apologize.
I've been recommending plans to the board since 2012. And the whole time I've been, since 2012, I can never remember a plan not being recognized as a total plan and not split in phases. And none of you up there have either. I can't speak for Mayor Moore because he's before 2012.
I'm not as old as you.
Well, but you've been here.
Let's make that clear for the
You're
record.
getting close. But I don't understand how the phases can be split to make the parking adequate. You need to look at the total.
It works in the totality, or it works by phase, which was not the case when you guys reviewed it. When you reviewed it, the dorm was on one lot. The office classroom building was on another lot across the road. The hotel was on another lot, and then the flex space was in the back, and the parking didn't make sense between the uses. Now it works.
You're telling me the buildings have been moved on the plan?
Or the roads have been moved in creating a phase one campus that is all blue line. Hotel stands alone, and the industrial works alone. So however they divvy it up, it's going to work now.
Okay.
There's enough parking for those students, plus parking across the street.
And enough parking for the hotel.
And that's a separate lot, and there's.
It don't matter, it's all on that same plan.
Yeah, there's adequate meeting code requirements for the hotel.
Okay.
The hotel has exactly as many parking stalls as required, and then the flex space has way more than is required.
Okay.
But the allocations work now. They did not work in the previous version that you looked at.
I just don't see the difference.
Well, I can show you in detail if you want to stop by my office, but there's a big difference.
All right, thank you.
Mark, was there any other issues besides parking that, I know all y'all recommended tonight, so
The
what was the other?
emergency services vehicles, but that wasn't, the main issue was parking. The
corrections they made, did they meet the planning board now? If you were in a meeting now, would you?
As far as I'm concerned, everything, I still don't think parking meets it. But that's my opinion. That was my main problem.
Okay.
And I still don't see where there's any difference. But thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it.
I can add clarity. When it comes to a zoning permit, again, they're going to have to show the uses for the site before they get a zoning permit, and they'll have to have adequate parking at that time. I mean, this is a master plan, and conceptually, it works. When it comes time to a zoning permit and that classroom building becomes all office building, you know, separate office where people got to drive to work, and it's a different use than was originally discussed in the master plan, now we got a problem. They will have to adjust their plans to meet the parking requirement with the zoning permit. But as presented, the way the Phase 1 works with the students going to the dorms, from there on, they can pretty much do their business on Blue Line, whether it's across the street or at that classroom building. They don't have to get in their car and drive again. And there's not going to be a lot of other people coming to the campus, you know, to go to those schools beyond those on site. So generally, it should work. There's more than enough parking based on that.
One question, we're back on the parking, is, I know parking is a huge issue out there. Is this going to be turned into a, you know, is this going to be dedicated for just Blue Line students and employees, or restaurant and general public going to be allowed to use it? How's that work? I guess, I mean.
Well, our intent is that'd be Blue Line employees, Blue Line students. I mean, I can't control every car that goes out there, but that's obviously, there'll be, I think we'll probably put signage of Blue Line parking only.
Okay.
Right, but by the same token, you know,
Right,
human nature being what it is.
Trying to think of a way we can, by y'all moving across, it'll free up other ones too.
Yeah,
but,
no, you're.
But just to avoid the crosswalks.
Yep.
I mean, people are going to park there, but.
Right. But it'll be signed Blue Line parking only.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else wishing to speak on this matter at this time? Not seeing any. This time, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I move we close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion as second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. This
Mr.
time, I
Mayor,
will entertain a motion.
Yeah, I move to approve the zoning map amendments, CZ 22, I guess I'm in the right place here,
Correct.
22-03 with 10 conditions of approval, finding the rezoning consistent with the Town of Smithfield Comprehensive Growth Plan Management, and thereby amending and other adopted plans, and that the amendment is reasonable and in the public interest. So that includes the Comprehensive Growth Plan modification amendments.
Good. Thank you,
Is
sir.
that the 10th condition?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay. Got a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Motion carries.
Appreciate all your time.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your presentation this evening. Hopefully, this will be a great addition to our town if it moves forward, and hopefully the next item will go through as well. But I think we have an opportunity to not only impact the economy here in Smithfield and Johnston County, but as we heard from Ms. Rubio, we have the potential to impact the entire nation's economy and the supply chain and what that means for Smithfield. So looking forward to it. Hopefully we'll be able to move forward with all the plans that everyone has and how it's laid out, and hopefully we see things build up out there and that we can actually make an impact here. So thank you very much, and to the public, other members as well. Mr. Lane, your point about parking, you know, I'm a stickler on parking, and trust me, if he had not given the presentation that he had, I would be up here saying the exact same thing that you brought up. So very, very good point, especially with the streets widths and so forth, the width of the streets. I think parking is very valuable and something that's neat. So again, thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right. Now we will move on to our next public hearing. This is ANX-22-02, Blue Line Aviation. The applicant has submitted a petition for voluntary non-contiguous annexation of 14.43 acres into the town of Smithfield and adoption of ordinance number 511. This time I will entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
I move we open the public hearing.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Stephen?
Thank you. So good introduction. So this is the same property we're just talking about, 14.43 acres. It's a voluntary annexation. It's a satellite annexation. We have no limit on the amount of satellite annexation that the town of Smithfield can have due to special legislation, so there's no issues there. It's not closer to any other town as attested by the sufficiency of the petition in the previous meetings. So tonight's just the public hearing, which is a third step in the annexation process. So this will be just some quick analysis. Utilities would be provided by the town, water and sewer. Duke would have the electrical utility. This is would then be within the police department's service district. Fire protection is within the Wilson's Mills Fire Department. So there is some negotiation that may need to occur. The fire chief is aware of that, just to make sure there's acceptance there. Trash and yard pickup are not services provided for commercial industrial properties, so it's not going to be a burden on the Public Works Department in that regard. And code enforcement can provide enforcement without any additional cost. We're already providing code enforcement for zoning out there. And with a property association, there really wouldn't be any nuisance violations to be too concerned about. So there are some finding of fact required with a annexation, and they're listed here pursuant to NCGS 160A-58.2. And if the council finds that those four conditions can be met, or findings can be met, it can be adopted. So staff is recommending approval. The council has three options: to approve the non-contiguous annexation petition and adopt the ordinance, table the decision for no longer than 6 months, or deny the annexation petition.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. Any questions for planning director at this time?
I do. One on the annexation, so satellite annexation, aren't we allowed only a certain amount of our land can be?
That is typical, but we have special legislation. I don't know when that occurred, but we have special legislation where there's no limit.
Okay.
Any other questions for staff at this time? Okay. Not hearing any. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak on this matter? Please do so at this time.
Mayor Pro Tem, members of council, again, Patrick Biker, attorney for Blue Line. We here respectfully ask your approval of the annexation petition that's before the council tonight. The only piece of information we wish to share on the record is that the clearing all the trees, that was done by the prior owner, and it happened approximately 6 months before Blue Line acquired the property. But just with that clarification, we respectfully ask for your support of this annexation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak on this matter, please come forward at this time. Okay. Not seeing any, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
We close the hearing.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I have a motion to adopt ordinance number 511, extending the corporate limits of the town of Smithfield.
I make a motion we approve the contiguous annexation petition and adopt ordinance number 511.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Good. At this time, we'll move on to item number 4, amendments to the town's code of ordinance. Bob or Stephen?
Sorry,
is that?
I got it.
To start off, all right? Bob, I'll turn it over to you,
These are
sir.
three code amendments designed to bring us in compliance with the new statutes that were enacted for last year, okay? So we're trying to keep the town up to date. Now, two of them, the first two are to that effect. The first one is basically our code on page 49 had a series of ordinances that largely quoted the statutes. The statutes that were quoted in those ordinances have been repealed. So it was now quoting thin air. It makes if we had this in front of the judge, it would make us look silly or outdated. So these ordinances basically do the same thing the prior ordinances did, which quote the statute. I'm not sure it's even necessary, and they point blank state in the beginning that they defer to whatever the statute is, because the statute could be amended next month.
Hey, Bob, can I stop you right there?
Yes.
I got caught up in all the other one. I failed to open the public hearing. So
Okay,
probably need to
that's fine.
do that. Is that correct, Madam Clerk? I didn't open the public hearing, did I?
Yes, sir.
I didn't think I did. I have a motion to open
I
the
make a
public hearing.
motion, we open the public hearing.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. All right, Bob,
So call-
my apologies, sir.
Problem. I call your attention to the previous discussion. The first ordinance on page 49 is a mere replacement of that section of ordinances that we already have in the book, and it's to make it to comply with the current statute, and really is a repetition of those statutes. The second set of ordinances are specific to Smithfield, and GS 160D 119 allows towns to develop unsafe building codes, and this is an unsafe building code. What it can do is allow the town to specify conditions that they think are necessary for safe and usable commercial buildings. The prior statutes prior ordinance that we passed is based on the state statute. That's a direct grant to the town, and it says that commercial buildings shall do 1, 2, 3, and it sets them out. But, you know, commercial buildings in Charlotte are very different than commercial buildings in Pine Level, and the situations aren't the same. So they allow you to have a supplemental ordinance, and that we are doing, and trying to update our code to that one. And I think we've been through this at a workshop, a fairly detailed code, which we put together from other communities. And these are being done. It's at the time we put it together, Raleigh hadn't even done theirs, for instance. But we will have that done. The third code is while we were doing ordinances, we decided to try to get the ordinances in good shape. This is basically a maintenance ordinance that we have, yard maintenance and commercial building schedule, and you will see that on page 56. Well, that is part of the other one. It's actually on page 69, and it basically tells people to keep their yard straight or they have their house in decent order. And that's the purpose of that ordinance, to just keep people's junk from deteriorating the fair market value of the neighborhood. So we're asking you to pass these three ordinances that will update our code, and we'll probably have some of the other ordinances later. It sounds like three ordinances were enough for tonight. So two of them will deal with commercial buildings, and one of them will deal with, the last one is really an update of our general yard maintenance ordinance. Questions? These are the same ordinances that we went through at a meeting where we did it as a workshop. So if you had no questions, that would be natural.
Any additional questions for Bob this time?
What is the penalty, Bob, on this yard stuff? What is the penalty? You have a fine or something? I don't see it.
There are general penalties in the code, can be assessed at $50 a day. And that has been relatively effective. It's also really to be cheap for the town.
I just didn't see it here, I didn't know.
Can we make if we choose to, can we choose to approve all at the same time, or do we need to take each individual separately?
I think you can approve them all at the same time.
As long as you have a supermajority. Did you have to have a supermajority in the first reading?
Yeah.
2 votes.
You do need 2/3 vote.
Okay.
We need to do it next session.
Gotcha.
But
All
I
right.
presume there's not any real opposition to these ordinances.
Okay. Yeah. Any other questions or anything for Bob at this time, or staff, or ordinances? Again, as he mentioned, I think this was what was presented during our workshop on this, and no changes since that
I have one
time. Is that
question.
correct?
Does this, if we vote in favor of tonight, does it take effect tonight? Or 30 days? What is the requirement? What is it? We have done things before and implemented, and there's a time period. So what is the issue if we do this tonight? Is it effective immediately?
I don't know of any time period.
So it'd be effective immediately, basically? Okay.
I don't remember anything in the statute requiring that.
Okay. Good enough.
Sometimes it is required.
Okay.
That's right.
All right. Any other questions from council at this time? All right. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak on this matter? Let's come forward at this time. Okay. Not seeing any. If there are no additional questions, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I move we close.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve ordinance number 512, 513, and 514.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Motion carries. Unanimous.
You just need some stop.
All right, now we'll move on to item number 5, public hearing ZA-22-02, Town of Smithfield. This time I will entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved, Mayor.
A motion to have a second to open the public hearing.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Stephen,
Thank
turn
you.
it over to you, sir.
Staff is requesting the town council review the UDO amendment to the, referring to the number of Board of Adjustment members and attendance regulations for all town boards. So over the past couple of years, there have been numerous vacancies and absences on town boards, making it difficult to conduct the business of the town. This amendment addresses those issues by reducing the number of Board of Adjustment members. And if you recall, Board of Adjustments meet kind of as needed. So sometimes they can go 6 months without a meeting, and some of those members lose interest. And right now, we have a 7-member board. This would reduce it down to 5 so that we can still maintain a quorum, but without such a large number of board members, since this is a group that doesn't meet regularly. The other is to create consistency in attendance regulations across all boards. So if you see on this slide, for Planning Board, Board of Adjustments, and Historic Preservation Commission, each has separate requirements for vacancies and absences. And we would like to create a common requirement for all 3 boards. Instead of it being 3 consecutive meetings being missed as a reason for termination, we would like it to be 3 per year, making it attendance more of a requirement to be on the board so that we can reliably conduct our business. So all 3 boards to function, we really need regular attendance. I guess this is pretty much self-explanatory, sorry. But the Board of Adjustments, I mean, this one's not as critical, but we feel like, you know, with a 7-member board and being a board that people just are not used to coming to certain meetings, and by having 7 and having to meet quorum requirements, because these are always quasi-judicial, we lose people's interest in being on these boards quickly, and trying to maintain a 7-member board is difficult. With a 5-member board, we can still maintain our quorums, the quorum requirement as necessary for quasi-judicial, but not have to maintain as robust of a board. And that's a little bit different than planning board, where we really need the opinions, and the more people on the board. We think keeping the same number of board members on the planning board is more important. We just thought this particular board, Board of Adjustments, has been more difficult to keep membership on. And then the absences in general on all the boards is a common issue, if that makes sense. So staff feels this zoning amendment is appropriate. It's consistent with the comprehensive growth plan and other adopted plans, and that the amendment is reasonable in the public interest. And staff and the planning board are recommending approval. Any questions?
Any questions from the board for Stephen, staff? Not seeing any? Anyone in the audience wishing to speak on this matter? Come right on, sir.
When we talked about this, the 3 absences, we wanted to be sure that there was a difference between somebody being sick and absent. We didn't want that to count toward, I guess, as an excused absence.
Not excused versus excused.
Where somebody misses to go to a basketball game.
Right, and I had Bob look at what's statutory requirement, and the requirement now meets statute, and that's what we need to rely on. And honestly, I can't remember exactly what the wording is. It's in the draft report. I'm not sure if you guys had quite the same language, because I was trying to get Bob's review of that. It may have changed a little bit, but it is statutory.
They want to be sure somebody missed 3 meetings from being sick and then got kicked off the board.
Right. We just relied on statute. That's where it landed.
I won't say anything else.
No, you're fine. You're all right. Fine.
Okay, here it is. Absences due to sickness, death in the family, or other emergencies of like nature shall be recognized as approved absences. That's right from statute.
All right. So I think that's out of, I think that satisfies. Okay. Anyone else wishing to speak on this matter, please come forward this time. Not seeing any, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I move to close.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, what is the recommendation of the council?
Mr. Mayor, I make a move to approve zoning text amendment ZA-22-02, finding the amendment consistent with the Town of Smithfield Comprehensive Growth Management Plan and other adopted plans, and that the amendment is reasonable in the public interest.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, sir. All right, this time we will move on to citizens' comments. If there's anyone wishing to speak at this time. Am I? Are we?
No, we got it.
Okay. Hold on 1 second. If you don't mind, I'm sorry. Okay. All right, just want to make sure I was still in order with my agenda. So, yeah, at this time, citizens' comments. So I will ask that you hold your comments to 3 minutes, please. And if you will, please state your name and address for the record.
Elizabeth Temple, 904 Chestnut Drive. In the 1950s, Ava Gardner visited the now-closed Johnston County School of Brogdon School. Gardner was an alumnus of Brogdon School. Ava Gardner visited this school to donate a piano. My grandmother, Virginia Temple, was the school principal there at the time. By doing so, Ava Gardner was giving back to her community and the students. Gardner shared her love and appreciation of music with others. Ava Gardner married a renowned actor, Frank Sinatra, who is famous for his vocal rendition of White Christmas. This year marks 100 years since Ava Gardner was born in our town on Christmas Eve, 1922. She is buried with her family in Smithfield at Sunset Memorial Cemetery Park that is 1 mile west of Town Hall. I hope that everyone from around our town and country world will visit our town this weekend for the centennial celebration. I have a lot of respect and admiration for the late Ava Gardner. There is interesting history at the Ava Gardner Museum that began in the Brogdon area of Smithfield in 1981 and is now located in downtown Smithfield. Gardner was a life member of the NAACP. She lived for many years in Europe and she loved her small dogs. There is a cross-stitched pillow on display that was given by one of her nieces, noting Aunt Ava, as well as some of her elegant ball gowns. A few of her movies will be shown at Smithfield Cinemas this weekend. I encourage y'all to purchase a ticket. May buy those in advance at the Ava Gardner Museum, and you may also buy tickets at the door. Ava Gardner was an actress and singer in many Hollywood movies. The Ava Gardner Museum celebrates Indigenous Peoples Day due to Ava Gardner's connection to the Tuscarora American Indians. Mrs. Jean Britt of Smithfield directed us in the New Little Theater's production of Ava Gardner's movie Showboat here in Smithfield in 1979 at Smithfield Selma High School. Just before the meeting, I submitted materials to the record related to my comments, and I apologize, I didn't mean to speak over you, and I thank you for your time. Okay.
Thank you very
God
much,
bless you.
Ms.
Thank
Dibble.
you for all you do, Mayor Moore and council.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak at this time, please come forward. Okay. All right. Everyone else, we will now move on to the consent agenda. I have a motion to approve the consent
I
agenda.
move we approve the consent agenda.
Second. Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Now we'll move on to the business item that was added to our agenda, approved to the agenda. It's a consideration and request for approval to allow the fire department to hire an additional firefighter position due to a pending retirement. Chief Brown?
Thank you all for allowing me to speak tonight.
And if you don't mind, I will ask that since this is a pending retirement, I see, so not officially announced, that maybe we don't really mention the individual that potentially may be replaced by this position, since it is a pending retirement. I would just ask that not be at this time. Just for, you know.
Exactly, my thoughts, exactly.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt you, sir.
I'm in a position now that I have two open firefighter positions. We've already started the process for applications. That will close Monday. And at this point, I'll be able to fill those two positions. I feel comfortable about that. But with the pending retirement, I have an opportunity to go ahead and try to bring on a third person so I don't have to go through the process again. It would be an overhire, but I believe if everything balances out, shouldn't be really a financial impact on us. But it would help us with the national shortage of firefighters. It's hard to find and recruit firefighters. So if I could get the third person now, I can go ahead and get all three trained at one time, get them on board, and that will help with my COOP plan, continuity of operations. It will help me with that. So I'm just asking for that new hire, overhire for this position, and keep everything rolling.
Any questions for the chief or Mike?
How many applications have you received for these two positions?
Beth keeps those locked up because I don't want to see them until the
I'm just curious. I mean, I'm asking that, are you having people reach out and apply? I mean,
I've had lots of inquiries, but it doesn't close until Monday. Some people typically wait till the last minute. So I expect this week I'll probably get several in. I've got several people that's called about it. And yeah. But overall, I spoke with, this is kind of a sidebar, I'll try to keep it short, but I spoke with the chief of Park City, Utah, and he had usually gets around 600-700 applications, and I talked to him. He said, Mike, I had less than 300. So it's a nationwide problem. Public service in general, police department, as we already know, fire departments, EMS, we're all having problems recruiting and retention.
Let me say, so one of my program areas is public safety, firefighters, so I'm on all these things for Facebook and stuff of that nature, and I see applications or job openings all across our state for firefighters. I mean, if you want a job as a firefighter, there are tons of jobs available all across our state. I mean, at the beach, at the mountains. I mean, you want to pick a location, you can almost do that. So there's definitely a need to, if we can take care of business, we need to do so.
Any other questions, comments for Chief this time? So, Mike, any impact to budget? Mike Scott?
There'll be some
how do we-
minor impact, perhaps. It depends on how long it takes to fill the vacancies. Since we're carrying vacancies now, we've got money sitting there. So if you got 2 vacancies that sits there for 30 days, you've basically got 60 days of pay for one employee sitting in the budget. You also, considering that the retirement does occur first quarter of next year, whoever gets promoted into that position will be at a lesser pay also, and that position is funded at that pay for the remainder of this year because we didn't plan on that retirement. So I feel pretty confident that we'll be okay budget-wise in the fire department based on the timelines that we're looking at.
Okay. The other question I have, since it is a pending, right, and you go ahead and your plan is to hire, what if the person decides not to retire? What is the plan of action there? Because then that will have an impact on our budget.
Yeah, I can't really answer that question really well. I would have an extra person, which I could really use, because a lot of times, the part-time, I don't have part-time staff. So I have days that I'm short-staffed.
Mike, thoughts on that?
Yeah, my thought would be, we have a part-time budget now for firefighters, and if we added an additional full-time person, you would eliminate the necessary funding from the part-time line to pay for the full-time line until such time as the retirement does occur.
You're fairly confident on the retirement, I would ask?
He has spoken to me on several occasions and indicated that he is going to be leaving in the first quarter.
All right, thank you. Any other questions, thoughts, concerns?
Do firefighters work in 2 jurisdictions sometimes? And just,
When you say 2 jurisdictions?
well, work half-time one place and full-time the other?
Yes, most, a good part of my part-time personnel work at other fire departments, which puts me in a precarious situation because if their full-time job calls them back, like the other night during the storms, if it calls them back, I can't pull from them. And then I have my volunteers, and then I got to get them all here. So just like the other night, you know, we all stayed, and, you know.
We have full-time staff, though, that also volunteers with other departments, correct?
They do, but this is their primary job.
Yeah, I know.
So they got to come back.
Just for clarification,
That's
it's
right.
kind of both ways,
Yeah,
right?
that's exactly right.
It goes both ways, because we have full-time staff that are volunteer, you know.
Get the money for the extra job.
Yeah, that's what we're doing.
Yep. Okay. Guess, do we need a motion, I guess, to approve this, or just?
Yeah, but budget-wise, the council sets the number of positions that can be filled. So the council needs to approve an additional hire temporarily until we have a resignation at some point to fill this through attrition. So we do need a vote to exceed that number that was approved in the budget.
Okay. What's the pleasure for the
Mr. Mayor, I
council?
move that we add a position until such time as a retirement takes place.
Second.
Yeah. Have a motion and a second to approve the position to such time that the resignation takes place. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Right. All right, we'll move on to council members' comments.
I'm excited.
Uh-oh.
Drone Day. Drone Day is coming up on Saturday.
I thought you were going to say sidewalks on Wilson's Mills Road.
That's not happening yet, but that's coming. We're going to fly our drones on that sidewalk.
All
No.
right.
Our second annual drone flying day is going to be Saturday, October the 8th. I think it's Saturday, right? Is that Saturday?
That's correct.
And it's from 10 to 1 o'clock. We have I got at least 10 students from one school, and another school in Harnett County is already committed to come. We got Gary Johnson is already supposedly by tomorrow we'll have the drone fixtures in the ground permanently on in our drone field at Gertrude Johnson Park. That would be for NFPA 2400. Anybody there, Gary? Is it already in there tomorrow? Is that when it's in? And that we'll have those clearly in there by Saturday. And then we'll be available for anybody in the neighborhood who wants to practice their NFPA 2400 standards, any firefighters, any police officer, anybody that wants to be involved in learning and earning their NFPA 2400, we have a place for them to do it. We also are going to have student competitions. We're supposed to have a company called Kazi Aviation, which does Flytrex apps. If you go on your phone, you can download an app called Flytrex. And you can actually today, on your phone, order food through your drone today. Now, it's going to tell you you're 45 minutes away from it because they don't deliver to your neighborhood. But if eventually they're coming to your neighborhood, if they're in your neighborhood, you just put in your address and they'll tell you that they're there. They'll be dropping it off in your neighborhood, and it's easy. We're talking all kinds of food product, Walmart. It's amazing. They delivered over 4,000 deliveries last month alone. They'll be there. We're supposed to have zip line there. We're supposed to have our racing people are supposed to be showing up again. There'll be drones to see demonstrations and some that will let the kids fly with too. So we're excited about that day. Hope you come on out there. 10 to 1 is the day. It's supposed to be a beautiful day in the mid-80s, I think the day is. So it's going to be a gorgeous day, and we're looking forward to blue skies.
Awesome. Anything else from anyone? All right, so I'll echo that. Lots going on in Smithfield this weekend. As Miss Temple mentioned, we do have the Ava Gardner Festival also going on, beginning Friday night and going throughout the weekend. So I encourage all our citizens to come and experience what we have to offer here in Smithfield. As far as the Ava Gardner Museum, there will be tours going on. There will be, I think, some tours to her grave, to where she was born, and then a concert Friday night at the Clayton Center. So if you don't have anything to do Friday night, I encourage you to come Friday night out to that and spend the weekend in Smithfield. Take in a museum, go see some drones fly, take in those festivities, and eat some food in downtown Smithfield or where else in Smithfield and do some shopping. So lots of stuff going on. Anyone else? Not? Mr. Manager, I'll turn it over to you, sir, for your report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a few things. We talked a little bit about fire prevention earlier. This is Fire Prevention Month, so do take the time as your furnaces come on and your fireplaces come on and your portable heaters get turned back on, that you do replace those batteries in your smoke detectors and check everything out. Make sure that you are fire safe going into the winter season. Parks and Rec has a few things scheduled for the Halloween weekend. We have on the 28th from 4:30 to 6:30 Boo Bash, which is an annual event scheduled at the Sarah Yard Community Center. The next night, October 29th, from 10:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m., we have Trunk or Treat at Community Park. And of course, we have normal trick or treat scheduled for Monday, October 31st, from 5 to 8. We ask that residents leave their porch lights on, inviting children to come up and trick or treat if they don't desire to have that occur because of COVID or whatever personal reasons. Please keep the porch lights off so people know where to go or not to go. Lastly, even though this is going to be in November, we have the green light proclamation from earlier today. Veterans are extremely important in Smithfield, as they are everywhere, but we go a little bit extra here, and on November 11th, the day that ends the green light proclamation, from 5:30 to 8:30 at Community Park, we're going to have quite a celebration there, ending in fireworks at dusk. Live band, food trucks. Gary and his staff have prepared a great event. It's a Friday, so it's a day off for everyone. We encourage you to come out, spend that Veterans Day there with other veterans. We'll have some acknowledgments for them during the day. Looks to be a great opportunity for some fun for everyone. So please come out and celebrate our veterans and enjoy the fireworks on the 11th. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. One other question I had, and I mentioned this to our asked the finance director last month. The graphs that are in our packet, I asked that these be put in as a visual of our revenues and expenditures, and I think it provides a really good picture of what's going on. However, I saw my accountant buddy here looking at this, and you can see that our expenditures right now for a general fund are tracking over what our revenues are. But Greg, do you mind, or Mr. Manager?
Greg dealt with this earlier, and he's well prepared.
Yeah, do you mind just giving just a quick explanation of that? Because I don't know that this graph actually tells the true picture, and I just want to make sure the council understands that, if you don't mind, Greg. Sometimes graphs can work in your favor, and sometimes they don't, right? But, you know,
right.
You need to understand in this situation, right?
Happily. The first month of this report, I did bring to Mike's attention, because we are comparing to the same period last year, one of the issues in graph comparison is when things take place. Expenditures are controlled by departments. And so you can very easily have expenditures in the first 2 months in one year that may be put off, depending on the department's schedule, until later months. But more specifically, the finance department did something sooner this year than in times past. At year end, we have to do a lot of settling up. In an accounting term, we call it accruing. So in the first 2 or 3 months in the new year, we get revenues that actually belong to the prior year. And so when we move those revenues back to the prior year can affect that picture. And so this year, and specifically, we moved sales and use tax that come in July and August. We moved them back more timely than we did last year. So it makes your revenues look diminished when really they're not. It's just an accounting thing.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Sheriff. No issues, though? You don't see any issues or anything with revenues as far as expenditures?
By the third or fourth month,
we should start to see
you
the
start to
graph start to
see.
shift.
But again, it depends on when departments decide to spend their budgets.
Yep. Nope.
Some things are very consistent, payroll, for instance. But if they're going to get a new vehicles, some large expenditure, you know, when do they do that? Do they do that in the first month of the year, or do they do that in the 12th month of the year?
Mm-hmm.
So those kind of things we don't control.
Gotcha. Okay. Nope. I think the graphs did exactly what they were supposed to do. It shows us that picture, and therefore we need to be asking questions, and I thank you for your response. So I appreciate it. All right. If there's nothing else, we do need to go into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11, Section A5. Do I have a motion to go into closed session?
So moved, Mr. Mayor. Second.
Motion and a second. I will ask, if you gentlemen don't mind, before we step over to the conference room, do you mind if we go back to the back and get a picture around this lamp right fast with the green light? If you don't mind, we'll do that real quick, and then we'll go into closed session. Thank you.